started the organization to be a platform for women to join together, to be interested in topics that are timely, educational, and obviously fun. And we do retreats in the US and around the world, as well as here as online. So thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled to welcome Christina Tidwell today. I sent out the information on her bio last night. I hope you all received that. She is a registered nurse and functional nutrition coach, and we're going to be talking about awakened living today. What a better way to start 2023 than talking about an awakened life. And so welcome, Christina. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think that it's really important to understand what functional nutrition is, and I thought we would start there this morning. And so could you give us a definition of what functional nutrition is all about?
Yeah, so functional nutrition, the kind of the area that I work in, is sort of a branch of functional medicine, or kind of integrative medicine. But really, I guess the definition is that it's a systems-based approach to health and healthcare that focuses on identifying and addressing the root causes of disease or imbalance in the body. And I see it really as like how it plays out for me is that it's really an individualized, more patient-centered approach to care that focuses on optimizing the systems of the body, like the functions of the body. That's why it's called functional medicine. So optimizing our digestive system, our hormones, our reproductive system, so the body can function properly. And I think it really translates to me to seeing the person in front of me and understanding their story. So I'll give an example that helps kind of illustrate it a little bit more. But, if someone goes into their doctor with a diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, like that's kind of an umbrella. Mm-hmm. The treatment for that might be, okay, here's a pill to stop urgency or like frequent bowel movements, or, like here's a treatment for that issue. When we're looking through a functional or integrative lens, it's more say there's two different people that come to me with a diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome. What I often do when I work with my clients in this capacity is create what's called a functional timeline. And so that allows us to look at what's been going on for you from, whenever these symptoms started until now. So for one person, maybe we do that investigation through a timeline and through just talking to someone, mm-hmm. having time to be with someone and get to know them and their story. And I find out that they started having digestive issues after a really, really intense job that they were in. That had, okay, like anyone else, me too. That's happened to me too. And so we can say, oh, okay, a lot of this was mediated maybe by stress or our nervous system or our gut-brain connection. And then that tells us, okay, where do we need to go to resolve that imbalance or issue? Whereas maybe someone else comes in and we're talking and doing a timeline and looking at this, and I can really see that a lot of their symptoms started to change after they had a really bad bout of food poisoning, for example. So we can say, oh, well, that's actually a really different type of treatment where there's maybe some bacteria that are out of balance, or there's something going on with like the ecosystem of the gut. So it's two people that came with the exact same, diagnosis, but being able to just spend the time with them, understand who they are as people, allows us to then tailor a more individualized approach to actually address what's going on for them and what caused the imbalance. So for me, that's, I think, the best way I can explain it.
I love the deep dive approach to understanding how our body works. And I so appreciate the difference of going into some doctors where they're like, here, just pop a pill, versus really trying to understand what's happening in the body. So thank you so much for that definition. I think that helps all of us to understand where we might be going today. So before we get started, I want to encourage everyone to use the chat today. We want this to be really interactive. And we'll be talking about the seasons. So if you have something within that season that you have a question about, please write that in the chat and we'll address it right then. And then we'll have some Q&A afterwards as well. Christina, let's talk about awakened living. What does that mean to you? And what will our participants get out of today?
Yeah, so the aim of our session today is really to connect to these inherent rhythms and cycles that are in our body in order to come more deeply in connection with the body and basically its varied needs throughout the day. So I think a lot of times when there's so much going on, or I think we've all had a pretty intense last few years, we can sometimes ignore, or even I'll say like disassociate sometimes from the signals that our body is giving us. Sometimes it's because we have to for survival reasons. And sometimes it's just because what we've sort of become habituated to. So for me, being able to connect to these rhythms and cycles of the body that we're going to dive more into really helps to kind of accept and honor what is going on in the body. So for me, it's kind of awakening to the body because the body holds so much wisdom. And if we can learn little tips and tricks to kind of get to know the body and understand its language and work with the rhythms and the cycles of our body, it helps us so we avoid burnout. That's been a huge thing for me, especially in being diagnosed with an autoimmune condition at a really young age and being like a recovering perfectionist and all of these different things, being able to kind of attune to the rhythms and cycles and awaken to my own body's wisdom has been a really, really important part of healing for me.
I always say that the body knows before our brain does. And if we would just take some time to understand it better, we would be so much better off and whole as we go through our life every day. So I know, Christina, that you would like to start with a meditation to get us all grounded for our conversation. So please take us into a lovely meditation.
Yeah, so I wanted to do just a little bit of breath work this morning. So if that's available to you, if it's not right now or you're driving or doing something else, you can, I know this is going to be recorded, so you can listen to it later. Or engage with it later, but just start by getting comfortable wherever you're at and feeling yourself in a comfortable seat, and just start to bring some awareness to your body and your breath. Just noticing where your breath is. Is it up in your chest? Is it in your belly? And not having to change it or anything right now, just bringing a little bit of awareness to it. And just feeling where your body is meeting the chair, the earth, the bed, the floor, wherever you're at, just bring your awareness to those places where your body is meeting a surface. And feel that surface rise up to meet your body as well. Feeling that support and feeling that groundedness and feeling held. And seeing if you can just relax, even just 5-10% into that surface, into the floor, into the chair. See if you can just relax your shoulders or neck, your jaw. Maybe you open and close your mouth a few times and just relax the jaw, your forehead. And we're going to do something called box breathing. And this is just also called 4-count breath work. And it's a really, really beautiful practice for grounding, centering, and steadying ourselves. And it can really help us move out of high alert in the nervous system into the system responsible for rest and digestion, our parasympathetic nervous system. So what we're going to do is breathe in through the nose for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath at the top for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold empty at the bottom for 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue on in your own rhythm, inhaling through your nose for the count of 4. Holding at the top gently for a count of 4. Exhaling through your mouth for a count of 4. And holding empty at the bottom for a count of 4. And you're the driver here, so you're in charge of how long each beat is, how short each beat is, and keep going here with this rhythm. Just leaning into the consistency. Don't even think about it. Just do it. Let your body be breathed just for these few moments. We won't even be here very long. On that inhale, feeling your lungs expand, and then holding in the fullness at the top, just for as long as feels good for you. Exhaling through your mouth, letting everything go and feeling your body relax. And then holding empty at the bottom, just noticing what it feels like to hold that vacant space in the body. And we're going to add on one more piece here. So next time you find yourself breathing in, I want you to think in your head for each count, spring, 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 as in the season. When you're holding your breath at the top, we're thinking summer, 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 summer. On the exhale, we're thinking fall, 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 fall. And on the out breath, where we're holding empty, we're thinking winter, 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 where we find ourselves right now. So just try a few rounds, bringing in the seasons to this breath. And I'll explain more why we're doing this, but this is helping us to just ground and connect to the seasons and the cycles and anchoring that into our breathing right now. Take one more cycle here, wherever you're at. And when you release on your last hold, empty out, you can just come back to normal breathing. Drop the practice and just pay attention for a moment at how bringing in that breath for just a few minutes shifted your internal environment. And it might be very, very subtle, but just taking a few beats to notice. What does that shift feel like? And when you feel complete here, you can start to open your eyes and look around the room. So just move your eyes around the room and the space that you're in and just begin to notice what's around you. Notice the colors or textures. You can move to the other side, and it may even feel good to stretch your eyeballs a little if you look at the computer a lot. So stretch your eyeballs to the side. And what we're doing here is just reorienting ourselves to this space and just noticing what's around here and telling the nervous system that we are okay in this moment. And then when you feel complete, you can come back to center, do any little stretches or movements you need to do, and we are good to go.
That felt so lovely. I feel so much more grounded than I did just a couple of minutes ago. How does everybody else feel? You can put that in the chat. Somebody said energy in the solar plexus. Thanks, Lovey.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing what just a few minutes can do. And I think I often forget it. We often forget that just a few minutes. Yeah, less brain fog. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Felt amazing. And this is such a wonderful tool to be able to use during the day as a reminder to calm your nervous system down. And I'm going to keep this one and use that on a regular basis. Grateful for each new breath. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, thank you so much for that, Christina. Let's go ahead and talk more about the seasons and how this sense of wonder can help us with our bodies.
Mm-hmm. And we'll tie into why we tied the seasons to the different breaths that we did. It will make a little more sense as we're going along. So let me share my screen here. And like Joni was saying, feel free to write comments and interject at any time. I much prefer. I run groups sessions a lot and work, in coaching. So it's much more fun when we're all here together. But also, if you just feel like listening, just sit back and listen. That's great too. So what we're going to talk through today is figuring out which season you are in, and I'll explain a little bit more about this and how this affects what seeds you might plant in your life. One of the most profound pieces of my own healing from autoimmune disease, what I was talking about earlier, has been learning to acknowledge and understand my own rhythms and cycles, and really to allow the fullness of them. Allowing them is really key into my life. And so I'm really happy to be able to share this with you because it's been so helpful for me on a healing journey. So I don't know if anyone knows Sarah Blondin. She does a lot of meditations, and she's one of my favorites. She says, we can relax and relate to life with faithful knowing that if we cease to act, life itself will not cease. It may, in fact, grow full. So when we're hearing those words, how does it feel when you hear those words? I'm wondering, for many of us, there's kind of a fear that comes up when we think about maybe not acting or not doing, or maybe a feeling of, I don't think that that's possible. Whatever it is, let me know what comes up for you in the comments too. It's very normal. She goes on to say,
can you read that one
oh,
again?
yes.
Thank you.
We can relax and relate to life with faithful knowing that if we cease to act, life itself will not cease. It may, in fact, grow full.
So Monica said FOMO.
Totally. I love it.
Yeah.
She goes on to say that there are cycles we are ignoring. All life needs rest and incubation. All life needs time below the surface where it can breathe itself full and round, where it can reconnect with its nature and sprout again in its flushed form. Just as you can't force flowers to continually bloom, the same is true for all human beings. There is great value in letting go and dropping down. We must learn to remember from time to time to be like the tree in winter. So I really love these words because it highlights how there are seasons to our day cycles, to our days, our months, like we were talking about earlier, Monica, with the moon and the full moon coming up, and our lives, and really learning to experience and invite all of them in can help us to really avoid burnout, and to really know how to care for our body in each season, in each cycle. And it's going to be different at different times. I think a lot of times we think that I think our world demands us to be in a perpetual summer, a state of bloom, if you will. And I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but I definitely see that. We are always expected to be producing, to be on. Even if we work in more creative jobs, we're supposed to be creative all the time. We're supposed to be, especially if you're caring for people, right? There's this feeling of being on and productive all the time. And it can be really challenging to find our rhythms and cycles within that. So that's our work here today, is how even within the structures that are built here that keep us kind of sped up and keep us from being able to access the fullness of our expression, how can we on an individual basis take that back a little bit more and find our own ways to engage with our rhythms and cycles.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to add to that, Christina, is I just did a session on the winter solstice, and it was such a beautiful reminder of taking this time to pause. And I know that will be talking about that the seasons that you're discussing are not necessarily aligning with what, we're in winter right now. But with this winter solstice session that I led a couple of weeks ago, we talked about taking time to pause, and that this is a time to go inward. And it's so powerful because, just like you said, that society expects us to be in summer all the time and on the go. And this moment to take an inward look at ourselves, to pause and to look around, is such a powerful gift that we can give ourselves anytime.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not just during the winter solstice, which I know you'll be talking more about. So
yeah, and just like using those times in those cycles to anchor in and ground it. And maybe that's the starting point for all of us, is when, using what's around us to anchor in. So I love that you guys talked through that too. And there are so many different rhythms and cycles. I just have a few here to just mention so we can be thinking of them. But there's our circadian rhythm. I'm not going to go super deep into this or anything, but there's our circadian rhythm, which is just our sleep wake cycle. And that's very much a cycle. And it's kind of like our body clock. So that's one cycle that we can sync to and work with. And we're all going to be a little bit different. Some of us are night owls and more alert in the night, and some of us are morning people, but that's one cycle that we can see that's literally regulated by all of these different hormones and neurotransmitters in our body.
Can you go back to that and explain that slide a little bit more? I think there's a lot going on there. So not the circadian rhythm, the next one.
Yeah, so this is just kind of another example of what's going on with the circadian rhythm. So just another way to think about it. So we can see here, like, our high alertness might be around, 10 a.m. or so. I don't necessarily find that again, but this isn't like exactly to the T, but we can kind of see that there's so many different body functions and body reactions that are affected by our cortisol and melatonin and our circadian rhythm cycle. So more so just to kind of illustrate that within a single day, we are experiencing different cycles, and how we can kind of work and sync with that, whether that be finding the right bedtime for ourselves and helping ourselves wind down. I sometimes use these like blue light blocking glasses at night to help me kind of remember to wind down, because I read a Kindle that's like blue light in front of my face. In the morning, getting some light in our eyes and signaling to the body that it's morning time, and kind of working with within these different cycles within the day.
Thank you for
Yeah.
going over that. Somebody said the tiny signals that we may have missed, or our bodies and intuition are always speaking to us. And how often do we actually listen?
Yeah, precisely. And I think for so many of us, we're never really taught how to listen to our body. And it seems like something, we should just kind of know how to do, but we're almost taught to ignore our body a lot of the time. And so sometimes it's just, I use really simple practices where I'll set a few alarms throughout the day to just remind myself to pay attention to what's happening in my body for a few moments while the little bell is like dinging. I'm like, okay, pay attention. And I just tune in, and it's like I can feel my toes again. I can feel what's happening in my body. And then when that's done, I stop and I move on. But it's just a way to like pay attention, because we can we can definitely start to ignore those signals when they're not convenient, when we don't want them to come up. I know this happens to me, like or even a few months ago, I got sick and I could feel I was, but it was not a convenient time for me to be sick. So I pretended for a while that that was not happening, and it kept going. And there was a point where I had to just surrender and be like, okay, yes, that's happening. So a couple other practices even are just getting to know the body a little bit. So even, taking yourself through a little bit of grounding breathing, or looking around your room to feel that you're in a safe place, because sometimes we are disassociated from the body when we don't feel completely safe. And just putting your hand on your chest and saying, hi, body, nice to meet you. Nice to speak with you. I'm sorry I haven't been around. I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention. I'm here right now. Is there anything you want to tell me, or anything you want to share? Like, the wisdom of that body can kind of come through. So I have tons of little tips and tricks that we can use to strengthen that relationship, but absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I love Nancy says, I'm definitely in winter. Yes, I can't wait to talk through this. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Let's
We
go.
know. Yeah. Again, this is just another example of a cycle. If someone who has a uterus, and this is applicable, may have a menstrual cycle. And again, that's a cycle that we can sync to. Also, if this isn't applicable to you, the moon is a monthly cycle that we can sync to. And I'm sure you guys talked about in your solstice, gathering as well, just ways that we can begin to use the moon and these external cycles around us to help us come more into tune with what's going on with our body as well. And then the seasons. So this is something we all experience, a yearly cycle that we all experience. So we're using 4 seasons here. Chinese medicine, which is a system I absolutely love, would actually include a 5th season, which is late summer, but we're just going to keep it with 4 for now, for ease of that.
And we sent out a questionnaire for you yesterday. And if you did participate in that, you can write in the chat where you are so that we know. Nancy said, I'm definitely in winter. So we'll definitely would love to know more of who's online and where they are at. So continue on, Christina.
Yeah. So when we can tune into the cycles and tune into where we're at seasonally, we're able to gain guidance from the most trusted source there is, which is nature. So external seasons can influence what we eat, like literally what's available for us, our temperature, our activity, and even our symptoms. I don't know if anyone else feels this as well, but I used to always get autoimmune flares in the summer when the heat contributed to my imbalance that was happening in the body. And I've had clients who find winter is the time where they might feel a lot more achy, or, joints are being affected. So the external seasons are definitely things to pay attention to and understand our relationship to. And there's ways that we can do that through seasonal eating and seasonal practices, and honoring things like the solstice and different rituals to help us anchor into those seasons. But I also want to introduce thinking of the seasons internally. So thinking of this question, if I just asked you this question and you don't have any context and you didn't look at the journal or anything, what season are you in? I would love to know what comes up for you. And this is internally. What season are you in internally right now? And again, just throw it out there and we'll talk through it. And your answer may or may not change, but I'd love to just know intuitively what you think. Yeah, winter, planting bulbs. Yeah. Winter, fall. Amazing.
Lots of winters.
Yeah. And that makes sense because, that's externally what's around us. So we, sync to that too. So we're going to talk through kind of the characteristics of each season in a little bit of a different way so we can feel into that. And I'm going to keep trying to check the chat too. But so
we have a couple of springs.
Yes. Okay. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a spring right now. So I want to talk to the spring people and let you talk into that. So winter, as we all know, is a time of more quiet solitude. It's more time of going inward, of restoring our energy. If we look at the trees, a lot of them are dropping their leaves, and there's this power energy inside a tree. You might not be able to see it, but there's a lot happening there in the tree and under the surface. So in the winter, we might be doing things, and I will call it like planting seeds. Like, what are the things that intentions or actions or activities that we're wanting to bring in? And obviously in the winter, it's more keeping warm and cozy. Maybe there's more sleep, and that would be a normal thing. Resting more, maybe being at home more, looking within, or more introspection, preserving energy are kind of the themes in the winter. There is a book called Wintering by Catherine May. I wonder if anyone's read it.
Yes.
Yeah. And she says that wintering is a season in the cold. It's a fallow period in life where you're cut off from the world, feeling rejected, sidelined, blocked from progress, or cast into the role of an outsider. Perhaps it results from an illness or a life event, such as a bereavement or the birth of a child. Perhaps you're in a period of transition and have temporarily fallen between two worlds. Some wintering creep upon us more slowly, accompanying the death of a relationship, the gradual ratcheting up of caring responsibilities as parents age. Some are appallingly sudden. I love her language. And she says, in our busy contemporary world, we're forever trying to defer the onset of winter. We don't ever dare to feel its full bite, and we don't dare to show the way that it ravages us. We must stop believing that these times in our lives are somehow silly, a failure of nerve, a lack of willpower. We must stop trying to ignore them or dispose of them. They are real and they are asking something of us. We must learn to invite the winter in. We might not choose it, but we can choose how. So
Love that.
Yeah, I really love, and that just kind of goes with the embracing of what is. And when she's talking about winter internally here at the beginning, she was saying wintering can come after a really intense period of life. So we may find ourselves externally in a winter right now, but internally, have you ever been in the middle of summer, but you really feel like you're in a winter because something really intense happened?
Last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's that feeling of internally, oh, I am in a winter right now. And so it seems like a lot of you in the chat are feeling in a winter right now. And if anyone wants to share a little bit more about what that's feeling like or what they're noticing, be happy to look over that in the chat. But it's in this time of wintering, if we find ourselves in this place, it's kind of thinking, well, what seeds do I want to plant here? And this is where understanding what season or cycle we're in is really helpful, because in the winter, it's not really a time to we're not like harvesting a bunch of things, or, we're not at our peak. We're in a different energy. And so if we're internally feeling that we're experiencing a winter, it might not be the time that we are, starting all these new projects or trying to be in the full expression of ourself. It might be that we're planting more seeds right now to say, okay, I want to go inward a little more. I want to work on my journaling or meditation practice or whatever. I'm just throwing them out there, but it's a little bit more. We can see, well, what seeds feel aligned to plant right now? Let me know if that makes sense, or if you want to explain that a little more.
That's lovely. Let's go to spring.
Yeah. So spring is really a time of new beginnings. We're ready to start something new, and it's the time where we're coming out of a winter. So the seeds that we might be planting in our spring would be like a new habit, setting new intentions, cleaning the house, or even like cleansing the body or eating a little differently. And it could be a great time to start a daily habit of, for instance, like bringing in smoothies where you're using a lot of the fresh like spring herbs that you're finding and grounding into the season that way. January has a little bit of like a spring feeling because it's intentions and what's our new habit and what are we doing. And like I was saying, I feel a little bit like I was in a winter a few months ago of kind of some health issues and life issues and things coming up, and then emerging out of that in my own time into this feeling of like, okay, I like some of this has cleared, right? And I can see what seeds I'm wanting to plant and feeling like this sort of fresh start. So, yeah, I'm just looking at the chat here. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, we never know like how long, there's no set timing of being in each of these things, you could find yourself in a winter, maybe for a few days, moving out, but it's just an interesting way to kind of think about it. Spring is also a time for more like creative energy and creative projects, I find as well.
I love spring. I love to be in spring in my body, and also spring in general. I love planting seeds. So let's go to summer.
So summer is really about the fullness of expression. Again, when we were breathing in, we were breathing in with the energy of spring. So kind of starting in anew and bringing in that new energy. When we held our breath and our lungs were at their fullest, we were bringing in the energy of summer. So summer is this creativity, full expression. We are more out and about in the world, especially in Seattle. And the seeds that you might want to plant in your summer, maybe you're experiencing, or having more energy for social engagements, parties, being social, being out with people, more energy sometimes for vigorous exercise as well. I don't always find that to be totally true for myself because of the heat, but when we're, in theory, kind of thinking of different seasons, that can be one too. So that fullness of expression is summer. And then on the out breath, when we're breathing out, that's when we find ourselves in the fall. One thing I'll say about summer is a lot of times that we talked about at the beginning, the world kind of demands us to be in a perpetual summer where we are social, where we are out, where we are really in the fullness of our expression. And so I have several clients that I work with one-on-one that if we were to talk through this, they'd say like, I'm pretty sure I've been in a summer for 20 years. And I don't know that I've been in any other season, and I am so burnt out. And so there's a lot of people that may feel that, and summer is a great place to be, and a lot of us feel the most comfortable there.
So Christina, to that point, I do think a lot of people have been in summer for a long time. I mean, I could say that I've been one of them over the years. We've been on that perpetual roller coaster of summer. What is your first piece of advice to them on ways to slow down? Because it's not innate. It's not something you can just go from summer to like slow down. But could you give the summer some advice?
Yes, because I have been in a perpetual summer as well. I think it really starts with just paying attention and listening to the body. And I often ask these 3 questions to my body if I'm feeling a bit on overdrive. So I will just ask, how am I feeling? And you can do this in a journal prompt. You can just put your hand on your chest and ask the question, how am I feeling? Or you could even do, what am I feeling? And taking a few minutes to just, okay, I'm feeling a headache, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling thirsty, or whatever it is. The second question is, what do I need? So this just starts the process of identifying that. And the answer might be, I need a nap. I need a glass of water, whatever. That can be really simple things to tend to our body. And then the third question is just, can I give myself that? So a lot of times what happens is we may be paying attention to we're feeling on overdrive or going, that may be registering for us, but that part of what do I need might not be clear. We don't know what we need. So let's keep going. Or the part of, I know how I feel. I know what I need, but I actually can't give myself that. If we just ask the question, can I give myself that? The answer might be, I can't take a nap right now because I'm at work, but what I'm going to do, body, is when we get home, I'm going to take a shower and lay down for 15 minutes. Is that going to work? Yes. On with your day. So those 3 questions, are a great place to start.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Okay, our last one, fall. So fall is as we all know, a time of shedding and letting go. And it's a time where we kind of start to find ourselves going a little more inward, but it can be a time where we're transitioning away from the very big, busyness of summer and letting go of what we no longer need from that and moving into preparing for winter time. So seeds we might be planting in the fall would be letting go of what does not serve you, getting rid of things standing in your way. We may be more called to quiet walks or more rest or more introverted tasks at work or in life. And with our breath, again, the fall was in the letting go. There.
And do you have tools for people to be, let's talk about that. What a nice lead in.
Yeah. So just a quick slide here of I love using foods to anchor us into the seasons. It can be a really fun way to do that. You can do that at the grocery store. You can find a farmer's market. Maybe you grow your own things as well. So you're really deeply attuned to this. But I'm mostly including like veggies and fruits here. But spring, for example, would be a more cleaning and healing season. So it could call for foods that are bitter and just starting to sprout, more like dandelion greens or arugula, or like fresh greens, herbs, all those things. Summer is really a time for fruits and cooling foods to help combat the heat. So that's like the berries, peaches, and melons. Fall is the harvest season, so everything's available, and we're starting to have heartier foods, more protein and kind of like complex carbohydrates for our body. And then winter is when nature goes deep within herself. So it's more warming foods, comfort foods, and things like root vegetables, carrots, veggies, onions, and garlic. I've been like really craving onions lately. I'm like, what is this strange craving? And herbal teas can really help us during this time. You can even like soups and stews as well, and even using like seaweeds or different things for minerals and to just like replenish, what's going on at the body at this time.
And I think this is a good time to remind everyone to buy from your farmers markets. I mean, or a CSA program. It's just so important to buy, not only local, but things that are in season, like you've outlined here, Christina. So thanks, Susan, for that reminder.
And that's it. So the main thing, Elson Haas is a practitioner who talks a lot about living with the seasons. And he says we must learn to flow as nature does through the seasons. Tension happens when we resist this flow. And I've really, really found that finding flow within my daily rhythm, within monthly rhythm, and especially seasonally has really, really helped me to just be able to embrace the fullness of all of those pieces and avoid the kind of burnout or like single speed that I am prone to get myself in. So let's see. That's it.
And thank you. As far as the seasons go, is there a book that you've enjoyed that you would recommend to people? And maybe we can send that out afterwards, but that's one question. And then I would love for you all to, if you want more information, to talk to Christina. She has a wonderful consulting program. And this has just been so interesting. And I think what I'm taking away is to really take that pause and to remind myself that even if I'm in winter, I could be in summer. And it's like how to mind shift a little bit to make it better for my body. I love that, Christina. Thank you. A couple of other tools that Christina and I have talked about in the last couple of days to feel better is not drinking, even for a little bit. And Christina, I was really interested in your story about you stopping drinking for a moment in time and then longer. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I like that you guys are holding a container for dry January because I think it's helpful when we have a container, we have people doing it with us too. But I was just sharing too that I was working with an acupuncturist, and she at one point was like, Christina, I never am black and white about things, but alcohol is not doing you any favors. It's really just not. And I had to hear it from her to kind of be like, okay. So I ended up just experimenting with a month of not drinking. And it was really, really, really beneficial. It was more beneficial than I could have imagined for my body and my physical health, but also just mentally. I don't think I really understood how much it was impacting me. So it was really worthwhile experiment. And for me, I always like to say it's an experiment because I hesitate to say I'm going to do anything forever. So,
and I love that.
Yeah, it's an experiment. And yeah, I've definitely kept that. It's just now more a part of my life because I was able to have that time where I could really witness how it made me feel.
And, we're in the middle of Rethink Your Drink right now with R11. So there's more time to join. We have daily emails going out. We're on day 5. I have to say that it's been an interesting journey for me. We did this as a test for Sober October. And what it did was it just shifted my brain to think in a different way. I grew up with a mom who drank 2 drinks every day her whole life. And, as much as I didn't want to become her, I did. And so it just gave me a different perspective. And, while I don't think I'm going to say I'm never going to drink again, it gave me the opportunity to say, I'm going to drink tonight or I'm not. Or what's that special occasion that I am going to, imbibe and enjoy it and not feel any guilt whatsoever. And you said yesterday or this morning when we were chatting, it's like, yeah, you don't drink very much, but maybe there is that special occasion that you will. So we would love for you to join us. We had a healthy happy hour last night and was just so vulnerable and so nice to share with a group of women. And somebody said, everybody's being so vulnerable and we just met online. And that's exactly what happens when women get together. It's a beautiful opportunity. Also, something else that we talked about around ritual for the seasons. There is a full moon tomorrow night, just totally to shift gears here, but there's a full moon tomorrow night. And one of the rituals that a group of us are enjoying is to put out moon water. Christina, do you want to talk about moon water a little bit? Such a beautiful ritual.
Yeah. It's just, I love working with the full moon and the new moon, and the full moon for me always kind of being a time of like, what do I want to shed or let go of? And the new moon being a time of what seeds do I want to plant? So I just love thinking about it in those cycles. But the moon water, yeah, I think Monica was saying she was doing that. You just set out a glass of water, either, wherever the moon is going to be able to reach it, and leave it overnight. And the idea is that it's, charging into that water. Water is amazing. It can, pick up and do so many things. And then the next morning you would have whatever ritual it is that you want to do around that. Maybe it's what you're wanting to release. Maybe it's what you're wanting to call in and drinking that water. But I know you do it as well, Joni. So I don't know if you have any more that you add to it.
Well, I have to say, you've never had a better glass of water. It's so lovely to get up in the morning, like, oh, my glass of water. And it's just a beautiful ritual. And I do a little journaling about what I want to bring in for the month. And it's a great reminder. How about you, Monica? What is it for you?
I think it's just a great reminder every month to reconnect with nature. It's just such a lovely way to appreciate the stars and the moon if they're out. And if they're not, it's also just, I don't know, I've just really come to love that ritual of drinking the water the next morning and trying to bring intention to the following month. Mm-hmm. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think that thinking of it as, 30 days and looking ahead is so much more doable and lovely to think about what energy you want to put out there for the next 30 days. So So Susan says, I always acknowledge the full moon and during the month, tell it it's beautiful and thank you. I love that so much. Well, we thank you so much, Christina, for your beautiful insight on the seasons. I'm going to take this with me for quite some time and enjoy all of the knowledge that you imparted on us today. It's beautiful to connect with the seasons, as Monica said, and you did too. With that, I'd love to invite you to join Rethink Your Drink. You can sign up, and there's just such great programming for the next, 26 days since we're on day 5. And we have several events coming up. Do you want to talk about Janie Lee Grace, Monica?
Yeah, sure. So Janie Lee Grace is joining us on Tuesday, and she is a character. I mean, I adore her. She's a radio personality, and she decided to go sober quite a while ago. And she wrote this great book, which is on my desk somewhere, Happy, Healthy, Sober. And I love her approach because she talks a lot about not needing to quit. Like, you don't have to have a drinking problem in order to decide to lead a clean life. And she talks more about the positives of having a clear mind. And I just love that. I think Dry January has always been drudgery for me. And I just check off the days to get through it. But to actually embrace the lifestyle and the benefits of being clear-headed is it's lovely. So she's funny and not intimidating at all, and not boring. So
she's quite really fun.
She brings a new twist on being sober. So that's on Tuesday. Please join us for that. And then Joni, how about the Get Your Shit Together event?
Well, get your shit together. So for those of you who are in Seattle, we're doing an in-person event with the woman who wrote the book, Get Your Shit Together. Her name's Chanel Reynolds. And I would just say from personal experience that getting your stuff together is the most important thing that you can do as a woman to and for men too, is that you just never know what happens. And for instance, yesterday, one of our team members at my PR firm, her husband was riding his bike to work and got in a bike car accident. He's now at Harborview. And the reason why I'm sharing that is that you just don't know what's going to happen on a day-to-day level and basis. And just getting your paperwork in order, getting your will in order. And we're going to be talking about all of that. It's a 3-hour workshop. And I would highly recommend Chanel's work. And she started this because her husband got hit on a bicycle by a car and died. And so she's like, she didn't have any of her stuff in order, and she wants to help women get theirs in order. So you don't have to go through what she did. And she's just straightforward, to the point, and we're going to get a lot done in that workshop. So join us, and there's more to come. So thank you so much for being here today on Rebel 11. Check out rebel11.com for more events and retreats that are upcoming. And Happy New Year, and have a great day today. Thanks so much for joining us.
And thank you, Christina. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you
Christina.
so much. Thank you.
Take care.